Welcome to the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association presentation on pregame responsibilities. We're using the NFHS Boys Lacrosse rules, and these are in particular the pregame responsibilities for the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association and folks in Georgia. So feel free to modify these procedures if you are in another district or area, but this is sort of the way that we teach it and want it done. All right, timeline of pregame responsibilities. So, 48 hours before, at a minimum, you should accept the game in Arbiter. And I say this if a game comes out, uh, if you have said your calendar availability is that you are available, it is the understanding on the part of the association and the assigners that you are then going to accept that game. Now, that being said, we know that there are a lot of things and life gets in the way, and you might get injured, you might get hurt, you might have, you thought you were available for that game, but now you've got a work event or you've got a family event or something has come up. If you don't think you can do the game for whatever reason, the key thing is to reach out immediately and decline the game, reach out to the assigner and let them know. If you can do the game, do not sit on it. Accept the game. If you decline, assigners need to scramble and find somebody who can fill in, and that means a lot of moving pieces and moving bodies around. So make it easier on the assigners so that everybody knows what's going on, and just make sure you're communicating. That's key. At some point before the game, the referee will send an email to the coach confirming the game time and the start time and where to park and all those things. For me, I tend to copy the crew on that email. I do not expect you to respond to the coach, but I will then immediately send out an email that takes the coach off that email list, and then we can have the conversation about where we're going to meet, what we're going to wear, what kind of game this is, anything that needs to come up. Other officials will send an email to the coach, not put the crew on the email, and then maybe email or text their partner or partners. Respond appropriately. So 24 hours before the game, make sure you prep your gear. You might have to do laundry. You might have to get in there and, put a new battery in your timer. You might have to clean your shoes. You might have to make sure your hat's up to date, right? Maybe you need a new pair of socks, right? But make sure your stuff is ready to go. Day of the game, make sure you got all your gear, and you should really be checking traffic and weather, okay? If you've got a game in Atlanta, again, the joke is always Atlanta is an hour from Atlanta, you've got to make sure you're going to show up on time. And I personally like to add games into my calendar. I use a Google Calendar, and I put the location in. So when I open my Waze app, it knows that I have a game and where I am, and it will say, hey, you might want to leave 30 minutes earlier in order to get here when you say you want to get here, right? Check the traffic, check the weather so that you know that, hey, it's likely going to rain. There might be some big storms coming through. This game might get postponed, moved up. It might get moved to a different location because it was on a grass field and they want it on a turf field. All of these things can happen. You've really got to be paying attention. Right. So about an hour before the game. So most varsity lacrosse games will start at 7:30. It's required that you be on the field 20 minutes prior to the game. So if you're rolling in hot, and we've all done it, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to get ready. We've got a lot of stuff to do. I like to be in the parking lot ready to go 45 minutes before a game, so we can do a little 15-20 minute pre-game conference and really discuss things, right? This is where you get your mind into the game. You don't worry about your personal life, your work life, existential dread and crises, whatever it is. You're not feeling well, you're having a rough week. This is where you get your mindset into, look, I'm here, this is what I need to do, we need to focus on this. As soon as you arrive at a site, text your partners. Now, it's key that in Arbiter, if you are working a game, you will see who you are working that game with. And when you click on their profile, you will see their cell phone number and email and home address, right? And there should be a photo in there as well, because we work with a lot of people that we don't know. We've got over 180 officials in the GLOA, and uh, you know, even me who trains all the newbies, I sometimes don't know who we're talking about. Okay, so make sure all that information is in there. Um, right? I like to get out on the field and inspect the field. We've got to certify coaches. We've got to do a coin toss. We've got to meet with the face-off guys. There's a lot to do, and so when you step onto that field, you want to be ready to go and be really focused. This is not a time to dawdle and screw around and talk shop. Okay. Um, we're going to have a few minutes before the game starts. We're going to have the national anthem. We're going to need to inspect goals, and we're going to have to conduct the lineup and then roll right into the face-off. And then the face-off should begin right at game time. All right, getting games. In order to get assigned games, you need to sign up with a league or association. We are the Georgia Lacrosse Officials Association, and that's the group that assigns almost all of the games in Georgia. USA Lacrosse and the Federation do not assign games. Okay. Um, you will be sent an email inviting you to a GLOA account, and that you'll go in and then you will set everything up. So this is what the homepage on Arbiter looks like. And you will see you've got blocks, lists, profile, and schedule. Um, so uh, this is the spot where you are going to have to do all sorts of stuff. Now, the announcement here is where you can find the phone numbers and all the information for our head assigners, our sub assigners, all these other people. We've got the rules at GA LaxRef, our treasurer, our president. So if you're I can't find somebody's number, this is where you're going to go. You'll also see in the top right the ready to be assigned checkbox. That needs to be checked, or you are telling the assigners that you are not ready to be assigned. And you might uncheck that because you're working basketball games late into the playoffs, and so you're not ready early on in the season. Maybe you're injured. Maybe you're taking the season off. Right? Blocks are where you're going to put your calendar blocks in, days, time spans that you know you can't be working. So you are out of town for a week. You got to put that in. You can put blocks in for when you are uh, uh, just at work, right? So I'm a teacher. I'm not really available until about 3:30 is when I can leave. So you need to make sure that that information is in there. Lists are where you're going to find all the officials in the association. So you can search by last name, and you can find anybody that you need to find. Put these people in your cell phone so that you know who's calling and you know who to reach out to. Profile is where you set up your photo, make sure your address is available, make sure your cell phone number is up to date. The address is where we are going to send your paycheck. So if your address is incorrect, you need to make sure that is correct. In addition, your your zip code is going to be where we determine how far you're willing to travel. So you can set distance in Arbiter. Right? And then schedule, of course, is where you're going to find the list of games that you've accepted or are about to accept. Right? So blocks, this is what the sort of block page look like. And when you click on the date, it'll ask you sort of what do you want to do. So the reds are dates that I have blocked. In this case, I was blocking the week of Thanksgiving. I wasn't available on Sunday the 31st. And I was traveling on the 19th and the 28th. Keep your blocks up to date. It does change. We understand that things pop up, but You got to get in there. There is an app for Arbiter, and it's pretty easy to navigate. So you don't need to be at your desktop. You can be on your phone. You can set travel limits, how far you're willing to go. Now, please note this is not door to door. This is zip code to zip code. Okay. Check your email and text frequently, accept games quickly, and avoid declining games. Pre-game checklist. Communication with partners is the key thing. Confirm the time, location, what we're gonna wear. That being said, bring everything with the referee as soon as possible. Right. I usually send an email out saying, "Gentlemen, we're going to meet at this high school in this location." I usually send a Google satellite image with an arrow pointing to where I want us to find parking. Put the address in. I say I need us to be here 45 minutes before game time. Let me know if this works. The weather looks like this. This is what we will likely wear. But again, bring everything. Confirm that information immediately, right? Check your uniform and equipment prior to the game. Review the rules and mechanics. If you're struggling with offsides, if you're struggling with over and back, if you're struggling with counts, hey, go back to some of these videos and review those. You can listen to these in the car. You don't need to be looking at things. You can just listen to it in the car. Make sure you arrive on time. And look, we got to be ready both physically and mentally. What you're looking at is the right is our rookie two-man pregame checklist, and you guys will get a laminated copy of this. There's also a Word document available on galaxraf.com. Look under the resources tab, but these are things that it's really important to review as a rookie. When to throw a flag, what the trail should do, how to manage a restart, places to be, face-offs, timeouts, all that kind of stuff. Hey, pregame conference, right? Get there early. You got to be on the field, 20 to 30 minutes before game time. If you're going to be late, let your referee or the rest of your crew know ASAP. You can always pregame over the phone. Right? So just call in and say, "Hey, I'm stuck behind this accident and there's ambulances and craziness and I don't know when we're getting out of here, but I'm still on my way, and hey, let's talk about what we need to talk about." This is the moment when you will decide on the uniform, right? So in this case, they went shorts and long sleeves and jackets. You can go pants and long sleeves and jackets. You can go pants and long sleeves. You can go shorts and shorts, right? It may be a youth game, so you may be wearing the yellow GLOA shirt and the white hat. Confirm the level of the game, review any new or modified rules. Has a memo come out? Have you seen anything from the newsletter? Is this a youth game and we're not really sure what the deal is? We want to double check all of that. We'll review mechanics. And this is a moment when you're going to discuss, look, how we're going to call the game. We're going to discuss this in a different presentation, but we all know the deal here. You are handling a playoff game differently than you are handling a blowout game, differently than you are handling, the Mighty Mites versus the Tiny Tots, and all of those things factor into it. And so how are we going to deal this? What are the issues that we have noticed seeing these teams before, right? What is the coach going to get on you about? What is the coach upset about what the other team is trying to do? All of these things are going to factor into it, and that's when you're going to discuss all these issues. Okay, so there are opportunities to do games where you're going to have multiple youth games going on at the same time. That's important to realize, okay? These fields may not be regulation length. There may be people really close to the sidelines. If you've got grass fields, you may have to deal with, wet spots and holes and, bare patches where the face-off or the crease is happening. There's all sorts of stuff you got to deal with, right? But what you are looking for is your standard field. Now, this is the Federation version, but we really want to make sure that we've got the cones, that the lines are properly marked, that The midline is 4 inches. The goal line is 2 inches. Um, that the table is 6 feet back, right? So these are all things that we want to pay attention to. Is the team area big enough for folks to do things, right? Is the substitution area marked appropriately, right? Do you have limit lines? You got to look at all this stuff. You do not want to walk out to do the face off and realize, oh, we need cones, or hey, this cage has not been the net's not secured to the cage, or gee, it looks like this field's 30 yards short. Like, not the time. You want to get there and as quickly as possible assess anything that you need to do to make sure the game starts on time. All right, so what are we looking for when we inspect the field? Um, there are fields where the goal for a soccer field is right on the end line, particularly on universal fields. We need to make sure that we have the padded football upright um, doodads so that we can wrap those around. Again, if you've got a rugby or a football goalposts in there, same deal. You want to make sure you have cones. Is there anything weird around? Do you have a midline that does not go all the way through? Do you have sideline or end lines that do not continuously run the length of the field? I mean, I have played on fields that had manhole covers on them, right? Are you really close to the triple jump or the pole vaulting area, right? All of these things you want to pay attention to. You definitely want to pay attention to the nets, right? Do they have holes in them? Are they the right color? Are they the right size? Identifying these things quickly is really helpful. So if you do have problems with the field, it doesn't meet the requirements, you want to make sure you find the head coach quickly. If you are unable to make changes, the game's gonna be played, right? Lines, cones, goals, etc. That's not safety stuff. Um, uh, you'll contact your assigner ASAP and you'll fill out a game report. Now, if you have issues that affect the safety of the play, it is the administrator of the site that makes the initial determination as to whether they want to try and play the game. Once the game starts, it becomes the responsibility of the referee to determine if play should continue. And again, that's a conversation you're going to have with the coaches and with the site administrator. So one of the biggest things you have to do before we get out there and do our certification, or before we play the game, is to do our coach's certification, right? So you're going to ask the coach, do you certify that all your players are properly equipped by rule? Now, when the coach agrees to this, he's saying he knows what equipment is legal and illegal. Players have their required equipment. They've been instructed to wear it properly. Inform the coach if it becomes illegal during play. And the coach has inspected his players' equipment, including crosses and equipment. If the coach says yes, this is great. Now we can play the game. If both coaches say yes. If anybody says no, we are not going to play this game. And what you're looking at on the bottom right here is we have these cards that are printed out. We'll hand them out at the in-person event. You can always email me or Clyde Allen, the secretary, if you need to track some of these down. But they're printed out on cardstock, and on the back it has the coach's certification verbiage from the rule book. Right. And you're going to put your name, and you're going to put your partner's name, and you're going to put the home and the visitor and the date, right? So that the coach is not just yelling Mr. Ref, but he can say, if he knows me well enough, hey, Greg, or hey, Mr. Height, can I have a word with you, right? Again, we are acting professionally, so we should be, able to introduce ourselves. One of the things you're going to ask the captain or the coach for is you want to know who their captains are, and you want to know who their in-home is. And so when I write on my scorecard, and this is sort of a mocked up version of that, is the first thing I write is what my partner's name is. If I don't know who you are, and we have not worked together, I'm going to jot that down on my scorecard. I'm going to write white, and it's going to be Coach Smith. So I will write the captains are number 34, 45, 6, and 9. I will often ask if there's a speaking captain, somebody that the coach sort of entrusts with making a decision. I will ask who the in-home is. Remember, this needs to be a starter in the game, and it should be the first person listed in the home team book for that team. And I will do the same for the visiting team, right? I tend to like to go and certify the home coach first because I want to know whether or not it is senior night, when the national anthem is going to be played. Are there any issues with the field, any issues with the clock, any concerns that the coach has? Because I want to be able to go relay all that information to the visiting team coach. Hey, Coach Jones, it's senior night, so halftime is going to be 20 minutes instead of 10. They got a lot of seniors and they want to do the marching through the balloon arch and take photos with the parents, right? Nobody ever really has a problem with any of that. But again, that's a change. You want to make sure everybody knows. If there's an issue with the clock, some of the clocks have a slight delay because they're not hardwired in. So you hit start and it sort of looks like it jumps from 4:44 to 4:41. And that's just a delay in the system. So those are things you want to make everybody aware of. Right? Once you do the coin toss, you're going to figure out who has alternate possession, and this is where you are going to mark down which team starts with AP. Okay. On the back of my card, there is an image of the field, and I will write down what side of the field white and black are defending so that I know how they're going to line up in the first quarter in the lineup, and I know how we need to be switching as we come out for halftime. So those are all things, right? So you might put white is defending the non-clock side of the field. That's what NC means to me, right? When you get a goal, you are going to write down the number, and I actually like to circle that number because they can all sort of bleed together. And we really do want to keep track of not just that there was a score with hash marks, but who scored, because then we have a much better chance of confirming that information with the home team book. And so we'll do that. We don't want to do this, right? Right. And then I'm going to mark down sort of what the score was after the first quarter. It's white 3, black 5. Okay. Remember, when we're doing timeouts, we're noting the quarter and the time. Again, this is really good information when you have to go talk to a coach. So, issues to address with the coach. Are there issues with the field? Can you confirm the start time? Identify who the site administrator is. That person is usually going to have access to the lightning detector. Now, that lightning detector may be a ThorGuard system that automatically does it, and a horn goes off, and an alarm goes off. It may be a handheld device. It may be that they are on their cell phone and they're just monitoring a weather app. But you want to know what's going on there and who that person is that you can talk to. If you ever have any issues with fans and non-players and coaches, you may need to go talk to the site administrator to have somebody removed from the facility. Ask when are we going to do a national anthem? If so, when? Usually the clock as you walk out on the field is counting down to game time. So you will say, hey, when that clock is at 2 minutes, they're going to start the national anthem and the GHSA sort of voiceover and all those things. And ask them about halftime, as I have mentioned. For both coaches, again, you want to get captains for the coin toss. You can say, hey, I will grab them when the clock's at 7 minutes, blah, blah, blah. I usually grab them immediately after I finish certifying both coaches because I want to get out of everybody's way, right? I want to make sure you can warm up and do your thing, and I can talk with my crew and sort of take a look and see what's going on with the players. So I am more of a let's get this done and get it out of the way guy. Make sure you know who the in-homes are. politely explain that all communications should be respectful, and ask if they have any questions. Now, it's important when we are doing this certification that the referee is the one doing the talking. This is not an opportunity for the umpire, or in the case of a crew with 3 guys on it, the field judge, to jump in and start explaining what you think the rule means, right? Particularly if you don't have history with a lot of these coaches or understand what they might be trying to do, and if you don't have a particularly good understanding of the rules, you can get yourself into trouble, right? So again, this is something that the referee is going to do. All right, table certification. Tables are really integral part of the officiating crew, and it is very important that you get out there and make sure that the timekeeper and the scorer, and it may be somebody helping out with penalty time, make sure they know what they're doing and understand what their responsibilities are. Introduce yourself, make sure you get their name. I'll write that name down on the card. This could be anybody from somebody who has been doing it for the last 20 years and is going to know exactly what they're doing to, the third string defensive midi who broke his arm and now he's running the table. Or it could be a mom, or it could be somebody's girlfriend, or the team manager, like who knows. So usually it is the umpire or field judge who does this. If you're working with me and you're a rookie, I'm going to walk over and do it in front of you so that you can see what it looks like. Again, you may have 2 scorekeepers at the table, but the official scorekeeper is the home team. You want to make sure the table area is at least 6 yards from the sideline. Confirm the length of periods. Is this a JV game and we're doing 10 minutes, or are we doing 12 minutes, right? Is it stop or running time? Review signals, right? What's the dead ball signal? What's the wind the clock signal? All of those signals are really important. Is there a horn at the table, right? Again, the horn could be in the Jumbotron. It could be somebody's car, but we need a horn. For the scorekeeper, is there a book? Need a book. We're going to record the time and the number of players who score, and you're always going to record the time a penalty happened, the length of the penalty, what the penalty was, and the player number. And the R is going to confirm the score after each quarter. My favorite line to say is, hey, we're going to come up, we're going to signal what the penalties are. We'll tell you whether it's a 30-second penalty by giving you the T signal. We will let you know if it's a 1, 2, or 3 minute penalty by showing 1, 2, or 3 fingers. If you don't understand what's going on, none of us are going anywhere until you do. So feel free to ask questions. So here's an example of when things can get
2:23 left to play.
if your field doesn't meet the requirements.
Dixon Yellet on a donut run.
So we got White bringing it up, and we get hammered into the table. Now, that may be funny as these guys are videotaping it, but it is particularly dangerous for the people who are both doing the checking and getting checked, as well as the people at the table. Now, in this particular case, it is very difficult to move that table back. There's really no room for them to do that. And so this is a situation where, you're going to say, hey, everybody's got to be real careful here, okay? This is another example of what you're going to have here. You're going to have, everybody on the sidelines right up against, because there's fields next to each other, and you've got legs sticking out and children asleep and tents and chairs and all sorts of stuff. And this can become a real issue. So you want to be aware. If you've got space to move people back, this is where you want to move people back. All right, so the coin toss, right? So as you saw here, the referee will take the home team, the umpire will take the visiting team. You meet them at the wing line, right? So basically where the 40-yard line is on the bottom of this diagram here, right on the wing line. The referee will walk out first because the home team is going to be facing in. The home team always faces the table and substitution area. The umpire will wait a step and he will walk out once the referee has begun, and you will have your team facing away from the table and the benches. And you want to make sure you put the speaking captains next to the referee. As a referee, I tend to like to face the clock so that I can see where we are in terms of when the game is going to start. But that's just me. So ask your referee, what side are you going to be on? Introduce the captains, gentlemen. This is the captains from this team, and referee will say these are the captains from this team. You introduce yourselves to them. They introduce each selves to each other. Everybody shakes hands, right? Now, you're going to throw the coin up in the air. You're supposed to catch it, right? You don't want to flip it, but you're supposed to catch it and then show it as you're going to ask. The visiting team is always going to be the one that makes the call. So in this case, red. So you're going to say, red, what's your call? They're going to say heads or tails. You're going to throw it up in the air. The umpire should repeat what the choice was. Okay, so if red says, I want tails, the umpire should say, red has chosen tails. We want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay. If they win, they get a choice of alternate possession and a goal to defend. Okay. What I will do if you have one alternate possession is I will then stand next to you and I will tap your shoulder. That indicates that you have AP, and then I will point in the direction we're going, because the other team then gets to determine, hey, which goal will you defend? And so if they choose this way, I will say we're going this way first and third. Okay. Again, you can have a fancy coin. You can also have a quarter. It really does not matter, but you do need a coin. I like to just always kind of keep a coin in my pocket because you never know who's going to forget something or if it falls out. Prior to the game, you are allowed to do stick checks. Okay, so in this case, people can come up to you and just say, "Hey, can you do a stick check on me and make sure everything's okay?" Prior to the game, that is fine. You are allowed to do courtesy stick checks. Once the game has begun, you are no longer allowed to do a courtesy stick check. If a player brings you his cross and says, hey, I got a 2-minute penalty in the first quarter, I just want to make sure this is cool, you say, I cannot do that. If I find something wrong with it, I'm going to have to throw a flag. Okay? Be aware, you kind of want to be away from the benches when you're doing these stick checks, and you need to be aware that people are warming up. So there's lots of balls whizzing around, and it's kind of utter chaos as people are running drills and stretching and practicing plays and doing 3-on-2s and all of that stuff. So when you're done with having the stick checks and the certifications and all that kind of stuff, you do want to check the goals, right? So each of you will choose a goal. Referee tends to do the home team and the umpire tends to do the visiting team, but it really doesn't matter. And you're going to check the nets and you're going to look for holes and you're going to do all that stuff. Now, sometimes you really can't do this prior to the game starting because people are doing all sorts of stuff, but take a glance because you want to make sure if there's big holes or there's an issue that it can be resolved and it doesn't delay the start of the game. Right? Again, what we're looking for is, are there balls in the cage? Are there holes in the net? Do we have a visible, goal line? All of those things are key. And then just prior to the game, we are going to have a lineup, right? So the starting players for each team, all 10 of them will come out, and the face-off guy will stand right on the midline. The goalie will be down by the goal that they are defending. And the way you understand where to place players is you are going to stand with your left shoulder facing the goal you are defending. So in this case, white is defending the goal to their left, and if you look up, blue is defending the goal to the right of the screen, to their left. Again, the umpire will be on one side, the referee will be on one side, the umpire and the field judge, and if you have a CBO, will be on the other side. Usually, I say a few words. I'll say, gentlemen, we're excited to have a lovely day of lacrosse here. It's a great day to play lacrosse. You can say things like, gentlemen, you are standing 5 yards apart. That is the distance you need before you can engage a player on a restart, or you can just say that's the scrimmage area. You can congratulate them on making it to the championship, yada, yada. Keep it short. When I'm done with my little spiel, I'll say goalies cross. Goalies will run in, shake hands, and then run to their respective goals. And then I say, gentlemen, introduce yourself to your opponent. Everybody shakes hands, and off we go. Right? Again, left shoulder to the goal you are defending. 3 attack, 3 midfielders, 3 defensemen, and the goalie. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about this in a little more detail. You're standing out there, the teams have, they're huddled together, coach is giving final instructions, you're about to start the game, we're doing the lineup. Nobody on this earth actually knows where they're supposed to line up. The captains didn't tell them, nobody knows the left shoulder to the goal you're defending, all of that stuff. So anticipate that this is going to be a little bit of chaos. As red walks out, I'm going to say, red line up on me, and your goalie is down on the other end of the field. You're defending the crease and the goal on the right side of the screen. The umpire repeats that, hey, blue, you're lined up on me. Goalie should be down at the other end. You are defending that goal. And so everybody comes out, and we're all set to go. And we're going to move into position. And this is where you're going to give your spiel. Gentlemen, let's have a great day of lacrosse. Any instructions? Oftentimes, this is a place where I might say, guys, please note that the end lines are different colors than everything else. Right? That's a great opportunity. You can point out muddy parts of the field or anything like that. Once the goalies have crossed and the goalies have gone their separate ways, everybody has come together to shake hands. We're getting into position to do a face-off, okay? The bench side official is always going to cover the goal to his left as he is facing away from the bench. And in this case, the face-off official facing the bench is going to be going to his left. So in this case, the wing official is running left on the screen, and the face-off official is going to be running right on the screen to cover that goal. And once we're ready to go, we're going to do the face-off, right? This is a really good idea to decide sort of where people should be, right? You can write who's defending what end of the field on the back of your card. All right, again, my name is Greg Height. I'm the GLOA lead trainer and a USA Lacrosse clinician. Please email me with any information or questions that you have. If you find a mistake, let me know. If you've got a suggestion on what I might add, please let me know. And if you've just got a rules question or want to talk something out, I'd be happy to chat with you. All right, thanks for listening.